Hello guys, this is Javelin from English Tutor Hub and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a grammar lesson about past continuous tense. So let's start. I was going to school when you called me. So here is the past continuous tense, and in fact in the same sentence we also have the past simple, which is you called. And today's lesson is about the past continuous. So we're going to discuss this in more detail, and you will learn the form and the common uses of the tense. And at the end of the lesson, there are exercises to test your understanding. So let's look at the form. I was going to school when you called me. So the same sentence again. I was going to school when you called me. So I was going, you were going, he, she, it was going, we were going, you were going, and they were going. So the affirmative form was made up of the subject. Then there is the past form of the verb to be. So this is the past form of the verb to be, was and were, and then at the end we have the ing form of the verb. So this is called the ing form. Alright, and in terms of grammar, we call this part here, the past form of the verb to be as auxiliary verb. And we call this part here as the main verb. Alright? So that is the affirmative form. Subject plus past form of verb to be or the auxiliary verb plus the ing form of the verb or the main verb. Affirmative form. The negative form. I was not going to school when you called me. So this is what changes. What is now to the negative form, or what is new to the negative form, we put the word not in between auxiliary verb was and the main verb going. I was not going. You were not going. He, she, it was not going. We were not going. You were not going. And they were not going. So we have the subject plus past form of the verb to be. Then we have the word not, and this is what makes it the negative because of the word not that we added between the past form of the verb to be and the ing form or the main verb. And again we have the ing form of the verb, and here we have the verb going. Alright, so that is the negative form. The negative form also has a contracted form. So here is the full form. I was not going. you were not going, etc. This is the full form that we've already seen, and the contracted form is I was not going, I wasn't going, you weren't going, he wasn't going, she wasn't going, it wasn't going, we weren't going, you weren't going, and they weren't going. So the contracted form, we have the N apostrophe T. So the apostrophe here, the apostrophe indicates that we are missing a letter, and we are missing the letter O from the word not. And as always, we used the contracted form usually in spoken English. We don't usually write it. Alright? Now, let's move on to the question form. Was he going to school when he called you? So, was I going? Were you going? Was she, he, it going? Were we going? Were you going? And were they going? This time we have the past form of the verb to be plus the subject and plus the ing form of the verb with the question mark at the end to show that it is a question. Very important not to forget the question mark. So the difference is we simply change the order of the subject and the verb to be. So the verb to be now comes first, followed by the subject and the ing form of the verb plus the question mark. Other question form with question words. Question form with question words. Why was he crying? So there is a question word why, and then we have a normal question form of the past continuous. Was he crying? The question mark was he crying? This is the normal question of the past continuous. And where were they playing? Question word is where, and the question form were they playing? What was he cooking? Question word we have what, and the question form was he cooking. Question word what, and the question form was he cooking. So the form here is we have the question words either what, where, who, why, and how. And then we have the past form of the verb to be, followed by the subject, and followed by the ing form of the verb to be, and followed by the question mark, at the end. This is how you form the question form with question words. Now let's move on to the ing form. So what is The ing form. Well, the basic rule for regular verbs is to add ing to the base form. For example, the base form is go. So go, and so the ing form, going. Go, going. Clean, cleaning. So this is the only rule for regular verbs. There are lots of other rules and exceptions for irregular verbs, and for all the rules of the ing form, please, for all the rules for the ing form, I have another video. I'll separate video. Please watch my video, okay? There is a link to the video at the end of this video, okay? For all the rules of the ing form, please watch my other video, ing verbs English lesson and exercises. And there is a link to the video at the end of this video, alright? So, let's look at the common uses. When do we use past continuous? The first use is to describe a long action in the past that started before a specific time. Okay? So, we define a specific time, and also the long action is continuing after the specific time. So again, guys, long action in the past, common uses. When do we use past continuous? The first use is to describe a long action in the past that started before a specific time. So we define a specific time, and also the long action is continuing after the specific time. So the past continuous, we describe an action that starts before a specific time and continues after. Example: last night at 7 p.m. I was watching football. So this is the specific time, last night at 7 p.m. And then we have the long action, I was watching football. So let's look at the time chart. This is now the present, future, and the past. So here is a specific time. Very short time. Specific time, very short specific time. 7 p.m. last night. And here is the long action here. Here is the long action, I was watching. So he started to watch before 7 o'clock, and he finished watching after 7 o'clock. So this is the long action. So last night at 7 p.m. I was watching football. So we are defining an action that we are in the middle of a specific time. Another example: at 5 p.m. she was cooking. So the same situation. at 5 p.m. The same situation, 5 p.m. is the specific time, and at that time she was cooking. She is in the middle of cooking. She is in the process of cooking. So, past continuous. At 5 p.m. she was cooking. So, past continuous, she started, for example, at 4:30 here, the past, and finished at 5:30. So, at 5 o'clock, she was cooking, or she was in the process of cooking. Alright? So, long action in the past, to describe a long action in the past that started before a specific time. Okay? Next, and the long action is continuing after this specific time. Next, we have here, we also use the past continuous to describe a long action in the past that is interrupted by a short action. And we use the past simple for the short action that interrupts it. Alright? Example. Here is the same example from the beginning of this lesson. Remember? I was going to school when you called me. Okay, I was going to school when you called me. So this is a short action. You called at a specific time, and this interrupts the long action. So here is the call, the phone call at a specific time in the past. This is a short action, and when the call arises, we are going to school. Yes, when the call arises, we are going to school. I was going to school when you called me. Alright? So I was in the process of going to school when you called me. And we can also change. We can also change the order. We can also say, when you called me, I was going to school. So these two sentences are both correct, and they both mean exactly the same thing. I was going to school when you called me. Or you can change the order. When you called me, I was going to school. So again, these two sentences, guys, are both correct, and they both mean exactly the same thing. So you notice when we say when, we use the past simple, you called. Alright? So when we introduce the clause of you called using the past simple, then we use when plus past simple. Alright? Another example. I was living in Phuket when I met Roger. So this is the longer action, I was living, and this is the short action, met, at a specific time. Alright? So this is the past simple, and this is the past continuous, I was living. And we can change the order. When I met Roger, I was living in pocket. Alright? So, when plus, take note here, when plus past simple. Or we also have other way of saying this. While I was living in pocket, I met Roger. Alright? And we can also change the order. I met Roger while I was living in pocket. Alright? So, these 4 sentences, I was living in pocket when I met Roger. Number 2, when I met Roger, I was living in pocket. Number 3, while I was living in pocket, I met Roger. Number 4, I met Roger while I was living in pocket. Okay guys, so again, these 4 sentences, 1, 2, 3, 4, they are all correct. They all mean the same thing. The difference is with the past continuous. We use the word while plus past continuous, or when plus past simple. And we do this to join. Both actions, to join the longer action with the short action to connect them. So, don't forget guys, when plus past simple and while plus past continuous tense. Again guys, when plus past simple and while plus past continuous tense. Alright? So, we also use the past continuous to set, means to describe the scene in a story before the real action starts. We use the past simple for the real action. So, we see this often in books or magazines or an articles. So, for example, Tom and Jerry were walking in the park. The children were playing volleyball and dogs were running. So, this is just a scene. This is just a scene of the story. It is the background of the story. It is a general description of the scene of a story. And then the real action starts. Suddenly, a man ran towards them. So, this is the main action of the story, and that's why we use the past simple. So, the past continuous to the background, to the scene, and then, yes, the past continuous to the background, we're walking, we're playing, we're running. The past continuous to the background, to the scene, and then the real action ran, which is past simple. We can also use the word always with the past continuous to describe an annoying habits in the past. Alright? So, the past continuous with always to describe an annoying habit or an annoying repeated action in the past. This is a negative feeling to this use. Negative feeling to this use. Example, our neighbors were always fighting. So, we are not only stating a fact here, we are also giving a judgment. There is a real negative feeling to this sentence. Our neighbors were always fighting. Roger was always complaining. So we are in a way judging Roger. Alright? We are giving a negative judgment. So, always, and it goes between, always is always, and it goes between the auxiliary verb and the main verb in past continuous. Always is always in the middle. Okay? Always is in the middle of the auxiliary verb and the main verb complain, but it's in a past continuous, which is complaining. Several actions at the same time. We use the past continuous to describe actions that happened at the same time. And these are obviously actions in the past, and they are actions which have the same length. So they are both long actions. Example: while Peter was ironing the clothes, Ryan was cooking. Okay? While Peter was ironing clothes, Ryan was cooking. And Matt was writing some articles while I was mopping the floor. So notice that both clauses, both actions are in the past continuous. Was ironing, was cooking, was writing, was mopping. Okay? And we join them with the word. We join them with the word while. Either at the beginning of the sentence, while Peter was ironing, or at the end, while I was mopping the floor. Alright? And notice guys, that if we have while at the beginning of the sentence, then we must write a comma here. While Peter was ironing clothes, we have to write a comma here. Ryan was cooking. Okay? There is a comma that we must write because there is we have to write a comma here because there is a pause. But here, if we have while in the second part, there is no comma. Alright? While Peter was ironing clothes, so we have to write comma because there is a pause. But if while is in the middle, no need to write the comma. If while is in the second part of the sentence, there is no comma. Alright? So let's move on to non-continuous verbs. So these are some in English which, again, there are some in English which do not have a continuous verbs. Some verbs do not have a continuous form in English. Most of them are called stative verbs. Okay? Most of them, they are called stative verbs because most of the time these are called stative verbs. And here is the list. Here is the list of common verbs that do not have a continuous form. Alright? So we have here love, you have hate, and you have like, and there are other examples. All of these guys are verbs that do not have a continuous form. For example, the vanilla cake was nice. I was wanting another slice. This is wrong. Okay, this is wrong because want. Remember guys that want is a stative verb, and stative verb do not have a continuous form. Don't forget that. So another here, the vanilla cake was nice. I wanted another slice, and this is correct. Okay, that is correct. We must use the past simple. Alright, so I recommend that you look in a grammar book and you look for a stative verb, and these verbs do not have a continuous form. Alright, so let's move on to our practice exercise. Exercise 1. Put the verbs into the correct form of the past continuous. So I will give you the question, and I will give you 5 seconds to answer, and I will show the answer. Alright? Answer: yesterday at 6, I was preparing dinner. I was practicing the guitar when he came home. I tried to tell them the truth, but they weren't listening. So guys, this is a negative sentence. Yes, in a contracted form, weren't. We weren't cycling all day. So again, this is a negative sentence. Negative form, weren't. Exercise 2. Make the correct form of the past continuous. So, were you sleeping when I got home? It was raining at lunchtime. You were shopping when I called you. How were we doing at that time? So that is the end of the lesson, guys. And here is the other lesson that I mentioned during this video. ing verbs, English lesson and exercises, ing forms, spelling rules, and grammar. So this video contains all the rules, how to write ing form, and there are some other videos that you might be interested in. So just click this link and please watch the video. Alright, so guys, don't forget to subscribe or don't forget to visit englishtutorhub.com to get a full transcript of this lesson, and there are other lessons that you might be interested in. And don't forget, guys, to subscribe, share, like, and leave your thoughts and questions. Love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and see you very soon. This is Javelin at English Tutor Hub.